Thank you. Okay, so starting with the inheritance in humans. So we, in the last class, when we were talking about different terminologies with respect to what is gene, what is allele, what is homozygous and what is heterozygous, and of course the dominant and recessive, we were specifically talking of the traits that are being shown by the human or any other organism for that matter, including your plants or animals or humans. Now, specifically in case of human, we do inherit literally thousands of characters from parents, that is father as well as mother, and they have inherited it from their parents and so on, right? I hope you understand this statement. And thus, the family members, that is like brothers, sisters, or your immediate cousins, they tend to resemble with each other, not exactly copies, and not in all the characteristics, but in some or the other way, we do resemble with our cousins or brothers and sisters. So that is what is inheritance of certain traits from the parents to the next generation, that is across the different generations. Now, I will come back to these three highlighted terminologies at the end of these description of these terms. So we know, for example, color of the eyes, it can be brown or blue. But now you might wonder, you would have seen green eyes or gray eyes or some other color of over that white eyes and stuff like that. So that does exist. But in these two, these were the two mainly present uh, traits, and out of this, brown was the main or dominant trait. And I hope you still remember what do you mean by dominant and what is recessive. Dominant was the one which gets expressed into the next generation when it is like carried forward from the parent generation to the offspring generation. So that one which get expressed is dominant, the one which does not get expressed is the recessive phenotype. So that was color of the eyes, in which brown is the dominant phenotype. Now, the reason why there are different colors of the eyes apart from these two that we speak of is because of the polygenetic traits. That means poly is many, genetic means there are many genes for the color of the eye. Apart from the brown color of the eye, or the gene coding for the brown eye and the gene coding for the blue color of the eye, there are other polygenetic traits. For example, there will be gene which will code for the gray eye, or the gene which will code for the green eye, and that is a polygenetic traits. That means there are multiple genes which will have this as the phenotype, color of the eye, and that particular color will be uh, shown in the offspring generation, and that is what is polygenetic trait. And again, whichever genes or whichever alleles are being carried forward to next generation, based on that, the dominant trait will get expressed. Now let's say, even though brown is dominant, and there is a blue and gray that is coming from father and mother, now out of blue and gray, whichever is dominant will get expressed. So depends on that particular situation. What we are talking here is, out of these two, brown is the dominant one. Brown is not the dominant in all the other traits, yeah, because it's a polygenetic trait. Hair shape, curly hair is the dominant trait, and straight hair is the recessive trait. In case of eyebrows, heavy or bushy eyebrows, that is the what you say, the dominant trait, and the thin eyebrows, that is the recessive trait. Now again, like most of the people who do makeup, or those who do threading around their eyebrows, that is the artificial one, yeah, created one. But naturally, whatever exists in that particular individual, that will be the genetic trait or the phenotypic trait. So eyebrows in natural sense, the heavy or bushy will be the dominant trait. hair on the middle joint of the finger. Middle joint of the finger, as in we have these three joints in the finger, in each of these fingers, and on the middle portion there will be a certain amount of hair being present, and that is also kind of genetically transferred traits that is inherited. And out of this, having those hairs is the dominant trait, and no growth, that is presence of no hair in the middle joint of fingers, that is the recessive trait. Out of color vision, normal vision is the dominant one, color blind is the recessive trait. Tongue rolling of the tongue is the dominant trait, and no rolling of the tongue is the recessive trait. Hand uses, right-handedness and left-handedness. Now I have written their complex and it is highlighted. So again, like we know, if my left hemisphere of the brain is highly active, then I am a right-handed person. And if the right hemisphere of my brain is very, very active, then I am a left-handed person. These are very well established facts by now. But then you can train yourself to choose to become the other handedness person, right? So suppose I am right-handed person, and if I train myself to write or to do things with my left hand, I can become so. And that is why it is a little complex process, and there is no as such dominant and recessive trait in this particular case. And that also relates to these terminologies that we are going to see later. Skin color, normal skin color, normal and albinism. Albinism is white, and that particular skin color is the recessive trait, and normal skin color, that is the dark skin color or brown skin color for that matter, that is the dominant trait. Earlobe can be free or lobed. Now these earlobes, like whatever we have, is in most of the like individuals, they are completely attached till the end or edge of the lobe. That is what is lobed and free. Free means that lobe will be detached from the skin of your face, and the earlobe will be free. So that is the dominant trait, and the lobed one, that is attached one, is the recessive trait. Lips, either thick or thin. Having thick lips is the dominant trait, and thin lips, these are the recessive traits. So this is just for your information that there are already being established over the generation that these are the dominant ones and the others are the recessive ones. Then I will come back to these terminologies here. Yeah. So we know dominant traits, they appear to mask other traits or they express themselves, right? Recessive traits are those, they can be hidden in one generation and then appear in the next. We will see this particular fact. If it is not clear here, how does it appear in the next generation if it was hidden in the previous generation? That particular part we will see. But just to simply give you an example, like we know there are homozygous dominant, and then there are carriers which are dominant, which has dominant allele. So they will express one of the allele that is dominant, but the other allele is recessive. That means they are carrier of that recessive allele, and they will carry forward that recessive allele in the next generation. We will see that in the Mendel's experiment. So this particular fact will get more clarified in there. Then incomplete dominance. Now what we know of is complete dominance. That means, let's say we have brown eyes and blue eyes, and brown is the dominant phenotype. Then that is complete dominance. But there is something called as incomplete dominance. That means a trait in which heterozygote shows, heterozygous phenotype shows a different phenotype from the homozygous dominant type. That means, let's say, where is that example? Yeah, here, let's say from both of my parents, I have received brown allele or eye color, which codes for brown eyes. But the express trait in me is something else. That is because of the incomplete dominance. That is, though this trait or though these both the alleles that I have, they are of the dominant nature, but the expression of the dominant allele in the offspring is not like how it should have been.
How
Like
does that happen?
that happens because of the complexity of this polygenetic trait. And there are quite a few phenomena. For example, the recessive trait or the other genes which are coding for the same color, they will degrade this brown pigment in the eye, and they will take over that particular function of the dominance. So that is just one example, and again it is not so simple like I'm trying to explain. There are several other factors which dictate the color of the eye, especially in this particular trait. In other
So,
cases, yeah, let me just finish this. So in other cases, like we know of hair shape, like there are not many traits. It can be curly or straight, right? There are not many other varieties that you see. Color, you will see difference. And that's why we have polygenetic trait here. Yes.
so, like, correct me if I'm wrong. Mutation is basically like this, right? Changes that come out in offsprings that weren't there in the parents.
Mutation is something different than this. Whatever cases we are talking about is the genes getting transferred from parent generation to the offspring generation as it is without mutation. And what you are talking is during this process of transmission, if there are any changes and that leading to changes in the offspring. These two are different scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope you got this. Okay, I just increase the volume so I can hear clear. Okay, so that is the incomplete dominance. That means a trait in which heterozygous individuals show a different phenotype than the homozygous dominant type. And the example that I gave you was I have received both the brown color coding alleles for the eye color, but then I don't express the brown color of the eyes. So that is incomplete dominance. Polygenic. Polygenic is again the same situation, but the reason is there are multiple genes or several genes, they contribute to one particular phenotype. So again, the example is eye color, where there is a gene which will code for green eyes, a gene which will code for brown, blue, gray eyes, and they together will decide which color of the new offspring will have. So it is a kind of a polygenic. I will share one article if you are interested at all in reading how these traits get decided specifically in the eye color, because there are so many possible combinations. And like I said, in case of curly hair and straight hair, there are not much options. So it is like very straightforward. But in case of eye color, there can be various other reasons. And there is another term which is called as epistasis. It is the interaction of these two genes in which one hides the effects of another. That means obviously it will be polygenic in this case, or even if it is just two alleles, these two alleles, they will interact with each other in a such a way that one of the allele which is dominant, it will hide, or the recessive allele will hide the effect of the dominant one. For example, let's say, again I'll take the hypothetical example here. Let's say brown is the dominant allele. Now in this case, what blue allele will do is sorry, let me complete that part. So let's say brown is the dominant and the blue is the recessive one, and let my father gave me brown allele and my mother gave me blue allele. uh, Now in this case, let's say my eyes are gray or my eyes are blue, though blue is a recessive allele and my eyes are showing a blue color, even though brown being dominant, it is not expressed. The reason could be epistasis. What it means is recessive gene, that is blue color gene, will degrade the brown color gene or the protein which is caused by the brown color gene, and that is when brown phenotype will not be expressed, but rather the blue one will get expressed. So that is what is epistasis, or interaction of two genes in which one hides the effect of another, especially the recessive one hiding the effect of the dominant one. That is what is epistasis. I hope these terms are clear. These three terms, they are not in your syllabus at all, but polygenic trait, it has a mention of it. These two are surely nowhere close to your syllabus, but I thought to explain these differences, and especially in terms of eye color, this was required, so I have kept it there. Okay, any question here so far? There has to be at least one very general question which is applicable to all these cases, and I'm waiting for it to come from your side. Yes.
How is dominance established?
Exactly. That's what I was expecting people to ask. If you have heard it clearly, like I have been speaking of, something has already decided that X character or X feature or trait is dominant and other is recessive. How it has been decided, or who has decided this? So it's a simple phenomenon. No one has decided it. The nature course has itself decided this phenomenon. Let's say over the generation, people have had both the alleles. For example, in case of very straightforward case of hair shape, curly and straight, whichever get expressed will be dominant. Now, how a gene will decide that now it's my chance to get expressed and that I will be a dominant gene? That will be decided based on the protein interaction. Now, each gene, like I had shown you that DNA to DNA to RNA to protein, that was ultimate fate of DNA is to code for certain protein, and that protein is responsible for certain action. Just an overview of this process. So that protein, when it interacts with developing a phenotype, for example of a curly hair or straight hair, if that protein is getting expressed, that means it is going to do its function. If that protein is getting degraded or becoming non-functional or interacting with some other protein and becoming not being able to perform its function, in that case it will not express the phenotype. So in case of curly hair and straight hair, both of these proteins will get uh, synthesized, but curly hair protein will get expressed because it will also suppress the function of the straight hair protein, and plus it will express itself. So that's how the dominance has been established over the time. And over the generation, like let's say again, the individual is heterozygous, and in that heterozygous individual, if a particular trait is being established, that will be the dominant trait, and it has been constant throughout the generations, like hundreds of them or thousands of them. And that is why certain traits, they have been known to be dominant because their proteins function in that particular way, and certain traits are known to be recessive because of again their protein function. Is that part clear?
So can you just repeat the last thing that you said? Your voice broke for me, so I couldn't.
Okay, so what I said was, what did I say?
Just just now what you said, the last sentence.
Wait, I have to remember what I said. I lost track of it. Uh, what was the question Aditya asked? Was okay. Oh yeah, I got it. So when a particular protein, or let's say from generations of the heterozygous individuals, whichever trait is getting expressed, that became dominant because that particular gene which codes for a similar protein was doing the function, and the other trait or the other allele which was present throughout this heterozygous generation was not able to perform the function through its protein. And that's what is the reason for establishment of the dominance and the recessive character. I hope it made sense to everyone. Okay, so shall we move forward? Oh, what is this? Please go away. Just a minute, people. Something. Yeah. Okay. Then there are few more terminologies which we will be seeing while we are looking at this Mendel's experiment. That is a monohybrid cross and dihybrid cross. Now, when monohybrid cross is when the parents are homozygous, that means they have pure alleles. For example, brown color of the eye from mother and brown color of the eye from the father. That is a pure allele or homozygous allele. And when in which both the parents they are homozygous for a single trait. That means either this capital TT that stands for tall and small TT that's that stands for the short in case of plants height. So the cross between two monohybrid traits, that is capital TT, that is the tall plant, small TT, that is the oh, I guess I haven't introduced you to this concept before. Okay, let me just take a minute on the board and then I will go back to the slide because it will be difficult to understand this. So let's say usually when we decide a particular phenotype or genotype, let's say in case of plant, it can have white flower or it can have purple flower. Usually what we do is whichever is dominant, let's say in this case white is dominant. Yeah. So we take when this white flower is getting produced in the next generation, we take its phenotype as capital W, right? This will be the homozygous allele for the white flower. Now, when we have to say homozygous, that is for purple, we don't write capital TP. This is wrong. Instead, what we write is small w, small letters. So this is white flower, this is purple flower. Both are homozygous because their alleles, like one is received from father, one is received from mother in this generation. One is received from each parent because they are two alleles in this, and they are homozygous. This in this case also, both of these they have been received. Rather, one is received from mother, other one is received from father, and both are same allele. So this is homozygous, recessive, homozygous, dominant because white is the dominant color. I will take few more examples to explain this process because it will be very, very important. Let's say, for example, not in plant, but in case of human. Let's say tall is the dominant phenotype and short height, yeah, height that will be a recessive phenotype. Now I'm not writing completely, but I hope you understand. So tall is the dominant phenotype. So homozygous dominant will be capital TP. That means this individual when was born, father, whether he or she does not matter. So this particular individual from father it received the tall G, and from mother also it received the tau G. So that is homozygous. That means same allele received from both the parents, and both of them they are dominant because we said tau is dominant. Now, homozygous recessive, that will be, now like I said, tall is denoted by T, capital T, and short will not be denoted by S, but rather we will use the same letter for the dominant but in lower case, that is, so it will be T, homozygous recessive. Understand the homozygous word, homozygous same allele, here also same allele. But in this case, both alleles they are dominant, so it is homozygous dominant. In this case, both alleles are same, so homozygous, and because both are recessive, we call it homozygous recessive. So this individual will be short, this individual will be tall, right? Now there is one more category, that is capital T and small t. That means either mother or father has given this first allele, and again the other, or let's for simplicity, mother had given the tall G and father had given the short G, short gene as in the gene for the short height. So this is called as heterozygous. Now, in this case, the phenomena of dominance comes into picture. That means, in this particular case, whichever out of these two allele, whichever is the dominant allele will get expressed. Now, we know capital T, that is the tall phenotype, is the dominant one. Correct? So, this individual, which is heterozygous, will have tall feature. This will be tall, this will be short person, this will be tall person. Even though it has this allele which is coding for short, but because of the presence of the dominant gene, this individual who is heterozygous will always be tall. Does anyone have any question here now? And I will take one more example if you have understood this part. If you have questions, you can ask me. So let's say for another example, let's take curly hair and straight hair. STRTRG. Okay. Now let's say this is dominant phenotype and this is recessive phenotype. And we usually will write this as C and this as small c, right? Capital C and this small c. Again, like I said, we do not write S for the phenotype of this, but rather we write the small letter of the dominant one. Okay, so can someone tell me what will be the homozygous dominant for this? What will be homozygous dominant? People. What do you think? What will be homozygous dominant? Who can say it?
So homozygous dominant would be the two capital C's, right?
Sorry. Come again.
See, curly is the dominant genotype.
Yes.
So two curly ones would be homozygous dominant.
Correct. So that means both capitals. Yeah, if they are not equal, that will be homozygous dominant. What will be homozygous recessive? Yeah, Aditya, you can say it.
So two small C's.
Correct. And what will be the heterozygous there?
CC, like a
One is
small c pixel.
correct, right? Heterozygous means two different alleles. One will code for the curly hair, one will code for the straight hair. Yeah. So that way, this will be the distribution of the alleles. So now I can go back to the slides and explain you that particular part. Again, like I said, if you do not understand these terms, you should ideally stop and clarify it. Otherwise, the whole chapter will go over the head. Okay, so in case of monohybrid cross, it is the one in which both parents are homozygous and for a single trait. That means for a particular physical characteristic, eye color, hair color, shape of the hair, shape of the nose, and blah blah blah. All for that one particular trait, they will be homozygous. And when you cross them, that is called as monohybrid cross. Now we had earlier seen what a cross means. A test cross is nothing but a cross. So that will be monohybrid cross. Mono refers to a single trait. When you hybridize them in cross, that is monohybrid cross. So for example, this is one particular trait, right? Let's say either tall or short, that defines a trait as a height. Height can be tall or height can be short. So both the parents, they are homozygous. So either they have capital TT or they have small tt. This will be homozygous dominant. This will be homozygous recessive. This will be a tall phenotype. This will be a short height phenotype. Okay. So this cross, like between capital TT to small tt, is called as a monohybrid cross. So that's what the first line means. Both parents, they are homozygous, both of them, and they are being crossed with each other. So usually it is a genetic mix between two individuals who have homozygous phenotypes. Genetic mix, that means it's a crossing over of those two individuals which are homozygous of homozygous phenotype. Can be completely dominant, like in this case capital T, or completely recessive, that means small t. So again, the monohybrid cross can be capital T crossed with capital T. That is both parents, they are tall. That is also a monohybrid cross. Both parents, they are short. That is small t crossed with small t. So again, I guess I will prefer to use board here because this becomes difficult to visualize otherwise. So here is the monohybrid process will be of three general types. Let's say monohybrid cross. So it can be capital T crossed with capital T. So this is again a tall phenotype being expressed or tall phenotype being expressed. Both parents, let's say anyone is father or mother, doesn't matter, but both the parents, they are homozygous. It can also be small t crossed with small t. Both parents, they are short, right? I hope you are following this part. That is short. And also, so in both of this, now third scenario is one parent is tall. Now again, doesn't matter whether it's a father or mother. In that case, it does not matter at all. It's crossed with the small. Now again, look in this case also, both the parents, they are homozygous. Individually, this parent is homozygous, that means it has same allele. This parent is also homozygous, that means it have both the alleles same. This will be a tall person or tall parent, you can say. and this will be a short parrot. Yeah. The next generation of all these, we will see how do they look like. You did not go into that part as of now. So these are the different types of monohybrid process. Yeah, which can be either both homozygous dominant, both homozygous recessive, or one is homozygous. Sorry, both are homozygous, but they are one is dominant and the other one is recessive. So these are the different possible combinations of the monohybrid cross. Okay, if you have any doubt, please ask. And then we are going to see this process in the Mendel's experiment. That's where we will clarify the F1 and F2 generation, that is their parents and their offsprings that way. So these are the different examples. You can also practice these different examples in terms of by taking different phenotype. Like we took curly hair, straight hair. You can take skin color, as in albinism is a recessive phenotype, and normal skin color, that is brown or black skin color, is the dominant phenotype. Based on that, you can like write down these possible monohybrid crosses. Then going back to the slides. Okay, so that is monohybrid cross. Dihybrid, I will not speak here as of now because it's very, very complicated. So once you go through Mendel's experiment, you will have more clarity of the monohybrid cross. And then I will come back to the dihybrid cross. So again, phenotype, just to briefly explain, I found this description very well apt and you would understand it. So I have kept it here again for genotype as well as phenotype. So phenotype refers to the observable physical properties. Now I realized while teaching throughout this genetics part, I did not mention of the observable characteristic can also be something like hormone levels or level of blood cells or the number of blood cells and so on. They are also observable characteristics, not in terms of only physical appearance. Phenotype is not only the physical appearance, but also whatever is present inside. That is, it can also be length of your arm bone, right? Or it can also be the length between your shoulder blades, or also the height of the vertebral column. So all these characters which are not physically apparent, but they are expressed inside your body, all of them, they are phenotype. And they can also be of a developmental nature, like I said, across the developmental stages of the individual, and they can also be behavioral type. So behavioral can also be the internal, like let's say secretion of dopamine or secretion of serotonin, how much of them is getting secreted and how is the individual behaving later. So those characters are also called as phenotype because they are based on a certain genetic makeup of that particular individual. Okay, so I hope you understand the complete meaning of the phenotype. Yeah. And the genotype is referred to nothing but the collection of the genes. So individual gene will lead to individual phenotype. So like I had said, for one particular characteristic in your body, that is the phenotype, we will have one particular gene. So that's what is genotype. And this term also refers to the two alleles that are inherited for a particular gene. Genotype does not mean only a gene. It also refers to the alleles, that is individual genes which are coming from the parents. And the genotype is expressed when the information encoded in that particular gene's DNA is used to make protein or RNA molecule. That's what I explained in terms of dominance as well. When this gene will get expressed, that's when the phenotype will be visible. Okay. Anyone, any question here? Or is it getting too much for the head? That also you can say.
So
Yes.
for the monohybrid cross thing, so first the two So were all three of the things you drew on the board, all three of them were the monohybrid crosses, or only the last one was?
Both of them they are sorry, all three are the monohybrid crosses.
Okay, cool.
Just in like first case, whatever individuals they will form, they will always be tall. In second case, whatever cross will happen between the small or short parents, in that case all these offsprings will always be short. But in third case, we will have a different combination. Some of them will be tall, some of them will be short, and that is what we are going to study. Because in homozygous, we will not have any difference of the traits. Like I had explained this particular terminology in simplest term. Let's say we had this Indo-Aryan race, right, which had blue eyes, blonde hair, white skin, and so on, right? And if they are just like marrying with each other within their race, they will preserve that particular race in a purest form. That is what means by the first two process. Whatever characteristic they have, they will always have the dominant trait. In the last case, there is this recessive parent, and that will change the whole scenario of the next generation. So that is why earlier two cases, they are of the purest breeding form or purest monohybrid crosses, and the last one is kind of mixed monohybrid cross. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so what is this? Moving forward, how much time do we have? We have 10 minutes, kind of. So I guess we can, yeah, we can at least have a basic of the Mendel's experiment started, and then we can continue next class. So I had explained already some of the basics here, like the main reasons and the main parts of the experiment will start coming in. So Mendel did or conducted his breeding experiments or crossing over experiments in the pea plant, that was Pisum sativa. And the reason why he chose the garden pea plant was specifically for these three reasons. Of course, there are many other reasons, but these were the main reasons, that the main varieties, they are available in alternative forms of a character. Alternative forms of a character, as in, let's say if you take a flower, if it is available in white and purple. If you take a pod, it is available in blue, not blue, yellow and green. If you take the height of the plant, it is available in tall and short. That's what is alternative forms of a particular character. Character is nothing but a trait. So for one particular trait, there was option available, and that's why that was one of the reason why Mendel chose pea plant. Second reason was the varieties that were available in pure forms which bred true. That means they produce the same type of generation after generation. And what this second statement means is the first two cases. Like let's say there were white flowers and they were homozygous, and when white flower was crossed with a plant having a white flower, they will always produce a white flower. And then this can go on for generations without any interchange or without any change at all, right? So that's why the pure forms of the breeds or the pure breeding was possible, because those varieties, they had homozygous nature. So I hope the second point is clear as well. And the third reason, the pea plant, they are normally self-pollinating. When it comes to cross pollination, there is a chance of variation in the plant, that new offspring plant that being generated. It's simple. Again, the same example of the race I will take. Let's say a white person marrying a black person. There is a possibility that offspring can be either white or can be black. But let's say a white person married a white person, then in that case the possibility of having a black child is rare. Or in other case, when a black person marries a black person, the possibility of having the white child is rare or almost next to zero, right? It depends on whether they are carrier or not. There are so many terms, but in simplest term, if there is a cross breeding, then this can happen. Same is the case here as well. Like when the self-pollination happens, that means uh, like the male gamete of the same plant, they are fusing with the female gamete of the same plant. Then there is no chance of additional or other chromosomes taking part in this fertilization process. The chromosomal nature of that particular plant is being preserved throughout the generation. So self-pollination is very like happens in these cases, and it can also be prevented by removing the corresponding reproductive parts. That means, let's say I want to test for cross pollination now. Now I have a white flower producing plant and a purple flower producing plant. Yeah, I can let them go for generations, but let's say I want to check what happens when I cross a plant with white flower with plant with purple flower, right? Now in both of these cases, if I need to cross pollinate them, that is also possible. And this particular thing can also be done by removing the corresponding reproductive part. Especially usually it is done for the male part, because if you remove female part, it will not generate the next generation, because female part contains the ovaries for the flowers. So you cannot remove the female part, but if you remove the male part from those particular flowers, then the possibility of cross pollination can be done, and could as well be cross pollinated artificially. And this removal of the reproductive part is called as emasculation. In case of male flower, if you take out that particular anther and stamen part, it is called as emasculation. uh, So these are the three main reasons why Mendel chose this Pisum sativa. Okay, I hope these 3 points are clear. If not, please do ask here itself. Yeah. Otherwise, I will not know if you have understood it or not. Then Mendel took varieties of pea plant showing the 7 pair of contrasting character. Again, this was one of the reason he had quite a lot of set of contrasting character in alternating form, and he chose those varieties or these particular species. Mendel crossed pure breeding varieties, that is white flower with white flower, or white flower with which other purple flower which always produce purple flower. So that is self or cross, taking only one feature at a time. That means a monohybrid cross in either of these situations which are explained on the board. And then by taking two features together, that is dihybrid cross. So this I said I will explain later. So do not look at this part of this statement. So Mendel was like he possibly did both type of experiment, that is crossing with monohybrid plants and also by dihybrid way. And he tried with all the 7 features, and his observation were similar for all. So that means he tried for, let's say, I'll go back to this particular slide. He tried crossing of this round plant or round seed plant with the round seed plant. Then he tried with round seed plant with the wrinkled seed plant. Both possible. Same he did with here also. Yellow seed color with yellow seed color, and yellow seed color with green seed color, and so on for each of these character. And then he concluded certain hypothesis or certain results, and that's what is known currently as Mendel's law. Okay, so I guess I can stop here. It's 27. I can take any questions if there are. Otherwise, in the next class, we will actually start with the Mendel's first experiment that he did in terms of the representation and all. Are there any questions